the delay.
1, 2, 3. All right, so I counted. Okay, hi there, welcome. I'm Andrew Brown, and I'm joined today by Dane Dormio. Dormio. One of those pronunciations.
Italian for the sleeper.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, my name's Italian for the color. So all right. So I've been seeing a bunch of things on the internet saying that you've been doing interviews, you've been hosting interviews, and you've been on guest starring with other people's interviews. So can you tell me about some of those? I haven't heard anything other than these random posts I get to see.
Yeah, actually, we've done interviews as part of our web show, and those are all hosted on our page and our YouTube channel. And I've also been I've been interviewed in a few times lately. One of the ones that I'm most proud of is I was interviewed by in an article on the Good Men Project. So there's a podcast called Real Men Feel that's part of the Good Men Project, where I had a really great experience sharing my story. So those get posted on my personal profile on Facebook usually, and the interviews that we've done, I actually I'm still just.
There's so many.
One of the first interviews that I did was with Bill Douglas, the founder of World Country Day, and that was such a great experience that it's still resonating.
Good.
That's a really fascinating conversation, and I'm just really pleased overall by the quality of guests that we've had on the show and the people that I've gotten to talk to, because it's so much fun when you read a book or you come in contact with someone's work somehow, and then there's a website and you go to the website and turns out they're on YouTube or they're on Facebook, and you contact them and they say, yeah, hey, good to meet you, and they become your friend, and now they're part of your social network, and you get to connect with your heroes that way, or just the people that you learn something from, people that you see as a mentor or a teacher in some way. That the way the world is becoming connected, you can reach out and connect with those people and host an interview with them on your own web show. I've just gotten to talk with some really awesome people just based on that. So I feel really blessed in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. You can talk to heroes. Well, you get to learn their secrets.
Right.
Because you can pick their brain. So that's really important. We have to do it all the time, and pretty much everything you want to really learn, you have to go talk to someone who's an expert. So it's great to meet those people.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and it's so great that we can, and the world is so connected, and so many people are so open. It's the most exciting time to be alive ever.
That's for sure. Well, that's why they call it the present, because it's present. All right, so today we want to really talk about how to get started with mind-body practices. So, Dane, why don't you tell me something about how you found Qigong?
So those are two different but related questions.
Okay. So, I mean, we can tell the people what we think is the best way for them to learn, but I think just sharing our story is a really good idea.
well, they're different but related, and I think they're related in a very important way, and it's really great to talk about them together.
Okay.
I talk about qigong and mind body practices kind of in the same breath, as if they're the same thing, and to me, qigong is the ideal foundational mind body practice for anyone, and it's there are several reasons that I say that, but I consider it to be the ideal mind-body practice for just about everybody, and the ideal foundational mind-body practice for practically everyone. Um, but qigong is a certain category of things, a subcategory of mind-body practices in general. Qigong is just one type of mind-body practice. And so I think it's important to clarify what mind-body practices mean, because that's really the more broad focus of what we do. And so my definition of mind-body practice, of a mind-body practice, is it's something that you do that involves changing consciousness for the purpose of personal growth, self-exploration, spiritual development, which is very broad, obviously, and this could include things like meditation, tai chi, qigong, yoga. It can include things like ceremony or ritual work. It can include things like working with plant medicines. It can include things like hypnosis, hypnotherapy, other forms of experiential psychotherapy. It encompasses lucid dreaming, and many other things besides. There's many paths up this mountain, so to speak.
Yeah.
So this is what mind-body practices are in general, and I say that qigong is the ideal foundational mind-body practice for pretty much anybody, because qigong is built upon the three regulations and the non-exertion principle and the pleasure principle. The three regulations: body regulation, breath regulation, mind regulation. We talk about these. There's a lot of material on this if you're interested in these subjects on our YouTube channel and in our online learning community. But body, breath, and mind are the foundation of everything. The reason that qigong is so powerful as a healing modality for health, wellness, longevity, performance enhancement is that it incorporates the benefits of breath work, exercise, and meditation all into a single activity. So we've known for a long time, for purposes of health, wellness, longevity, for stress reduction, for performance enhancement, exercise is extremely important, right? Like, if you haven't been living under a rock for the last century or so, you know that. And likewise,
moving is good for you.
Do what?
Moving is really good for you.
Moving is great. Yeah. It's a need. It really is a need, like food and water and air, right? It's a need. It's great. And likewise with meditation, in terms of stress reduction, performance enhancement, health, wellness, longevity. It's widely known, the benefits of this. And breath work is something that's becoming more widely known as a healing modality, as a performance enhancement modality, with things like clarity breath work, holotropic breath work. There's many different schools of breath work that are flourishing, and things like the Wim Hof method. So
I just did that yesterday.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I've been practicing it here on and off, but I want to be doing it more consistent.
Yeah. Why is that? Why do you want to be doing it more?
I really like how it makes you feel really warm and just energized. And as soon as you're done, you can just start working out, and you're just like, I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. I don't need to do anything else.
It's amazing what you can accomplish just with the breath alone, right?
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Yeah. And so this is, and the great thing about qigong is it incorporates breath work exercise and meditation. So you take that breath work into your qigong. It combines all of these. So to me, qigong is the ultimate mind-body practice, and it's the ideal foundation for any kind of mind-body practice you want to pursue, because body, breath, and mind, and the non-exertion principle and the pleasure principle are the foundation for any mind-body practice. In the other types of work that I've done, holotropic breath work, for example, in working with plant medicines, in working in other kind of therapeutic and expressive context, the having a basis in qigong is or practicing just meditation, for example, just pure meditation practice or pure breathwork practice. The foundation in qigong is an ideal place to begin to explore. It's an ideal set of tools to begin to explore other types of mind-body practices. So I often use qigong and mind-body interchangeably.
Okay.
Because qigong is really, I think, if you're just getting started with mind-body practices, I think qigong is an ideal place to enter that realm.
Okay, cool. So yeah, what do you think of yoga? Because yoga is very similar idea, meditation, breath work, and put together. You're trying to make your body, get to that point where you just find stillness. So it's a very similar concept as qigong, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's a great. I really love that you brought that up, because the qigong and yoga, what I like to say is the similarities and the differences are both very instructive. So it's a very useful comparison to me. Let me be right, brother.
Yeah, you get a little dark in here.
Yoga is a really useful comparison to make, because both the similarities and the differences are instructive. And yoga is something that is hugely popular, has exploded in popularity over the last several decades. And one of my friends, who's a lineage holder in a traditional Tai Chi style, who lived through this era, told me, it all started in the 80s when Tai Chi and yoga were both kind of known in for a long time in the sort of hippie counterculture world, but they weren't in the mainstream until in the 80s. There started coming out all these magazines promoting yoga,
martial arts magazines,
promoting yoga that had chicks in tight leotards with their legs spread way out, and all of a sudden yoga exploded in popularity. Whereas
makes sense.
Whereas the Tai Chi pictures were all like old people in baggy clothing,
silks,
movements, and it somehow just never caught on in quite the same way.
I get it. It makes sense.
But
soccer moms do yoga, not Tai Chi.
But I've heard people say this, and I feel this is coming too, that the heyday of qigong and Tai Chi, the Eastern energy arts, is on its way. It's in the works and it's coming. But yoga is something that a lot of people know about, or at least aware of, even if they don't know a lot about it. And a lot of people, there's a lot of people still have never heard of qigong. So the differences, the similarities would be that yoga is a mind-body practice. It incorporates the three regulations: body, breath, and mind. Although they're not necessarily made explicit in the same way, but a good yoga practitioner will recognize that, the body regulation, breath regulation, mind regulation. Yeah, we're doing all that. And and the reasons that people do yoga are very similar to the reasons that people do Tai Chi. Stress reduction, health, wellness, longevity, fitness, particularly balance, and range of motion or flexibility. Those are really significant similarities. The differences are instructive as well. Yoga comes from a tradition of worship. It originates as a form of spiritual or devotional practice. Qigong originates as a medical practice. So the focus in Qigong is health, wellness, longevity, caring for the body and the spirit. The focus on yoga is sort of communion and union with the divine. So they, by process of convergent evolution, kind of the way dolphins and sharks are shaped similarly, they have similar features. But that's a fundamental difference in their approach, and it shows up in different ways. So another difference that's really instructive is with Qigong. Well, yoga has an element. Yoga incorporates the non-exertion principle and the pleasure principle, to be sure, and it also has an element of exertion. Why
don't you quickly explain what the non-exertion principle is?
Yeah, the non-exertion principle is don't force, don't strain, don't overexert, don't try too hard. Work at 60 to 80% of your maximum in terms of intensity, duration, range of motion.
Okay, and the pleasure principle?
The pleasure principle is if it feels good, that means you're doing it right. If it doesn't feel good, that means you're doing it wrong.
That's usually true.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what guides our Qigong practice, and those are present in yoga as well. Also in yoga is an element of yoga works up to the 100% range and actually incorporates more of an element of sort of physical strength and muscular tension and contraction and sort of forcing. In a certain sense. And my friend that I mentioned, who is a traditional lineage holder and opened and operated a chain of Tai Chi schools in Southern California for several decades.
Okay.
I asked him once about the kind of people that study Tai Chi, and he mentioned one category being yoga fallout, people who tried yoga and hurt themselves. And then they looked for something that would get them similar benefits, but would be more gentle, not be as likely to cause injury. So that is a real thing. While yoga is great in many ways and for many people, yoga is certainly not for everybody to the extent that Qigong is. And and particularly for older people or people with physical limitations, recovering from physical illness and injury, Qigong tends to be better. Now, that's not universal. There's a really great YouTube video, you might have seen it, of a guy, trying to think of his name. Is it Nestor? The guy who was a former Army paratrooper that just totally wrecked his legs and couldn't walk, Or he walked with braces.
Okay.
Trying to think of his name.
Okay.
You can look it up, but he video documents his process of taking up yoga and practicing until he gets to the point where he can just run a full-out sprint, do like a no-assist headstand, and loses, I don't know, like 50, 100 pounds. It goes through total physical transformation and rehabilitation through yoga after the doctors told him he'd never walk normally again and all this kind of thing. So, there's nothing's universal, but I'm just pointing characteristic tendencies. Qigong tends to be more gentle and more appropriate for rehabilitation and for people who are looking for an experience that's less intense.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not going to get you sweating and straining and breathing hard. And
I
then,
sweat and strain every single class. You stand in John Zhuang for 15 minutes and you're going to be sweating and straining. I think the really good thing that yoga teaches is how to lose your mind, is how to just, your body is dying, you can feel it dying, but then your mind takes over and just forces you to hold. And then you are gone for an hour. And then I've seen people, the people that do they do like a plank, the plank challenges. A lot of yoga instructors win these plank challenges. So they'll do a plank position for like 3 or 4 hours. And right now the record is something like 4.5 hours. It's ridiculous. It's something way, way more than most anybody could possibly handle. But it's because they hold it, and then they go blank, and they're not there until they finally, like, their body is screaming so much that they just come right back.
yeah. And that actually points to another really illustrative similarity that I forgot to mention between Qigong and yoga, which is that both of these are very broad and very broad umbrellas. Yoga is not a single thing. It's a term that means devotion. Qigong is not a single thing. It's a term that means energy. Both of these have this very broad range. So there's a great variety within yoga. There's a great variety within Qigong. There's many types of yoga that are, for example, rather than the emphasis being on holding static postures, which is broadly characteristic of yoga, there's forms that focus more on gentle flowing movements.
And it's much more of a flowy, slow pace, but constantly moving form. Exactly. A little bit like Tai Chi, but you're in these stress positions.
and similarly with Qigong, there's a very wide range in Qigong. There's, as I qualified, these are not universal statements. There are always exceptions. I'm talking about the characteristic tendencies of the category. And the other difference that's illustrative, which is relative to it's related to the issue of injury. This is something else that my friend told me, because he's also for a very long time has been an extreme sports athlete, particularly snowboarding, and something that he related to me that is consistent with my observation and experience in yoga. Well, actually, one of my sifus, Jim, said something that I remember really well. He said, "Yoga is really great. You get all aligned and balanced and stable, right up until somebody comes and pushes you over." And this is again a characteristics of the class, not universal, but characteristic tendencies of the class. The focus and emphasis on yoga is opening fully, all the way expanding, and the equilibrium is a type of unstable equilibrium. Like, think of tree pose, for example. That's an unstable equilibrium.
Yeah, anything on one foot, definitely.
It's a static, unstable equilibrium. Whereas in Qigong and Tai Chi particularly, and Tai Chi, of course, has its martial roots. So we're dealing with external forces and influences in the environment, and so the emphasis is on stable, on dynamic and stable equilibrium. In other words, equilibrium that holds its that stays in equilibrium in response to external challenges, and also equilibrium in the midst of movement, rather than just stationary. So in Tai Chi, as I'm sure your experience will confirm, something that's really important is protecting the joints.
Yeah.
The joints in positions where they're protected and where they're safe. In yoga, you're getting the joints open as far as you can go, and that kind of becomes an ingrained habit. And what my friend told me is that people, like yoga people who are yoga is their primary thing, they are more likely to become injured when they do extreme sports and things where because they're not, they just don't have that ingrained.
Oh, that's an interesting point. That's a
More likely,
really interesting point.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of the Tai Chi people I know, they are good at other things. They can run, and there's some of them that are really well-to-do Taekwondo players and karate players too. So they're strong and they're fast, but they're also, they find calmness and they find stability with Tai Chi. So that multidisciplinary thing, it shows that they're not weak in other ways. Where, yeah, yoga people tend to be a lot of yoga or yoga and running, and that's like kind of it.
Well, that's not what I'm pointing to exactly. Not a multidisciplinary dimension to it, but the what you said about Tai Chi people. I mean, Tai Chi is a martial art, and something that guests I've talked to on the show have mentioned is somehow Tai Chi or Qigong and martial arts seem to go together. It's like if you, I bet you can't think of an advanced Qigong practitioner who doesn't have a martial arts background. Um, and so there's always ideally, theoretically, there's always the conscious and the awareness.
No, there's definitely people that probably never considered martial arts. They just found Qigong and meditation. This is great. And they just never went any further.
An advanced Qigong practitioner.
Yeah, of course.
Pretty much universally have a martial arts background. And so what I'm pointing to is that there's always an awareness, or ideally there's an awareness, generally in Tai Chi and Qigong, of protecting the joints, and which means keeping them in positions where they're safe, in response to external forces and influence, like being shoved and thrown around and hit and things like that. And in yoga, there's not that dimension. So if yoga is your main thing, you tend to develop the habit of extending the joints fully, kind of as an unconscious default. Whereas an advanced Tai Chi or Qigong practitioner will build in the default of keeping the joints protected. So
being like relaxed and kind of compact. That's how I usually am. Is like relaxed and compact.
Exactly. The quality of compactness. So so they both have their benefits that are similar and related but distinct. And one thing to take into consideration, like if you're considering, which do you want to pursue Tai Chi or yoga, or what might be better? If you pursue yoga, it's good to have this awareness that it tends to not have that dimension of protecting the joints. If that's a consideration for you, then that's something to take into account. And so if you do yoga, maybe also practice Tai Chi, so you can also develop that awareness of protecting the joints. There are different benefits that you get from doing it. So I'm definitely not saying that one is better than the other. I'm saying it's good to be aware of these distinctions and to take them into your approach to training, because whatever training tools or approaches or methods you use, the best thing you can do for yourself is to be aware of what you're doing it for, and what the effect is. So why, what's the big why, and what's the effect?
So that's the decision you have to make when you're getting started with mind body. Is I want to do something more yoga-ish or something more qigong-ish, or there's there's infinite mind body practices, like you said earlier. Right. So anyone gets to choose, but qigong is a good path, a good way to get there.
Qigong is the ideal foundation for anyone looking for a way to get started with mind, body, anything.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's end out real quick. I have a few announcements. So we have Tai Chi classes, 9 a.m. every Saturday in San Diego. And then we also host our own Tai Chi classes with the Martial Energetics group on Meetup. And you can get through that with Patreon. And our Patreon is, what was it? One more time? Dane?
Tai Chi on Patreon. That's
Okay,
our
Chai Tea.
online learning community. But you just speaking of the local San Diego group, which is on Meetup as Tai Chi. The Saturday morning class at San Diego Chinese Historical Museum. You've been doing that for a while, but you just recently added some sessions. So where and when are those happening?
So every Wednesday in La Jolla Cove, we meet up and I teach Tai Chi and Qigong, and then we watch the sunset. And when the sun sets, then the class is over. So it's really beautiful. And I got to look at a green flash last week. So that was nice. You know, you don't see those very often. So,
Don't know what a green.
yeah,
If you're not from San Diego and don't know what a green flash is, you can look it up.
yeah, it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful to see that, like the entire sun just appeared green for that second. So it was a good time. But yeah, so as you said, every Wednesday it's a public class. So is the San Diego Chinese Historical Museum class in downtown. But I also added 2 classes Monday and Friday morning at 6:30 in the morning for martial energetics. It's only for people in that group to come. So they can show up, but yeah, just got to give me a call and we can arrange it and make sure that you can get in.
Perfect.
So, all right. That's all I got for the day, sir. So thanks for talking to me, Dane. Good seeing you. Good seeing you're healthy. Got a big beard going on, man. How long did I go?
I don't know. That I was wondering about your opinion on this. I've kept it all short for quite some time, but I'm having this like little voice in my head lately. I'm like I keep wondering what I would look like with a man bun. I don't know. What do you think? Is it time?
You know, you would look like a great yoga instructor with a man bun. Every man bun guy I've ever seen is like a yoga instructor.
I don't know. It feels kind of, maybe it's a biological clock thing or something. I don't know.
All right, maybe. Well, hey, I look forward to seeing it. I think that'll be about a year before you could get that, but it's possible.
Yeah, check back in 6 to 12 months.
All right, cool. Well, all right, in 6 to 12 months, we'll check in on that. I'll say, how's the status of that beard going? It's just like, oh, yeah, it's going. All right, man. Gotta go. Have a good night, Dane.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks very much. So Tai Chi, martial energetics, circulation solutions. Oh, and thanks for Vlog Summit. I got to go to that last weekend and taught you all about how to earn money by doing videos like this. So it was really interesting. And I recommend going to their YouTube channel and just watching some of their videos on how to get started and what to do and how to go from this to, hey, we have 1,000 viewers, and hey, we have 10,000 viewers, and holy crap, we have someone sponsoring us. I had no idea. And yeah, so there was a lot of people there that attended that were like, well, my full-time job is I just make videos. Like I just record myself talking and I edit that in, and it's like, hey, I made a video, and every video they just do one a week and they make all the money they need. And it's amazing. And I was really blown away by the stuff they were telling us. So it's pretty cool.
You said it's called Vlog Summit?
Yeah, Vlog Summit, VLOG.
Oh,
so the whole thing is based on YouTube. It's all being released on YouTube. So yeah, go check it out. And check out our YouTube channel.
Yeah, we'll be sure to put a link up in the comments. That's really exciting stuff. I actually want to hear more about that. So
all right.
Talk about it sometime off camera.
Okay, cool. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.